think today is the first time we've ever had this topic on this show, and this is about bipolar disorder. That's not the only thing this guest has to talk about. She's a blogger, she's an author, but I'm so fascinated by this one subject. Thank you. Amy Bowman is with us, similar to your maiden name.
Bowman, B-O-W-M-A-N.
Okay.
For me, but.
Okay.
And you're from Michigan.
Yes.
And do you know Anna and Vic? Do you know them from the station there?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I have not met them yet.
Okay. So one of your friends is with you.
Yes.
That was on knows them. Okay.
Yes.
So I think everybody knows them. Everybody that lives in that area has to know Vic and Anna, right?
Of course, yes.
But anyway, thank you so much for being here.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
So where do we start with this? First of all, you do conferences, and I don't want to forget to say this. So you can check out on her website and find out where she's going to be and when she's going to be. She's doing things in Ohio and
Yes.
and different places. So check it out. So where do we start with your story?
Well, I would love to start at the beginning.
Okay, that's where we like to start.
Yes.
Okay.
So I was raised, I was born in 1970. I was raised in the church. We would go twice on Sunday, Wednesday nights, but my parents had me really young. My mom was 16.
Oh, wow.
My dad was 18. And we did everything together, camped and vacationed and hung out. And I have a younger brother, 3 years younger than me. And so for 11 and a half years, it was amazing. It was awesome. But they outgrew each other. And they got married so young that they were still, kids. So as they grew up, they outgrew each other. And when I was 11 and a half years old, they told me that they were going to get a divorce. So my foundation of who I was and who I believed in, God, my family, really cracked. And it opened a door for the enemy to start telling me lies. So on that day, I picked up the only thing that I could, which was my backpack, and I shoved it full of all of the things that I didn't understand. Regret from my parents getting a divorce, confusion, my identity, all of my broken pieces, and I just slung it over my back, and away I went. And so fast forward, and I'm now in high school, and my dad is remarried. We've moved to Rockford, Michigan. I am graduating with honors. I'm going to go to Hope College, and I'm still carrying around that backpack full of all those things. But I've created, some defense mechanisms. I've created this persona that to live in this world, I need to be perfect. And if I'm perfect, if I date the right guy, if I do the right things, then I'm not going to end up like my parents. And so from there, I go to Hope, and I am going to be an author. It's what my dream is. I want to write books and help people. And I marry, I meet him. I meet a man that changes my life forever. Yeah, first you got to meet him. I meet this man.
Where'd you meet him?
Yep, I met him actually at a bar. My mom took me out for my birthday. This was what you could do back then. For my 18th birthday, she took me out just to have an experience of dancing, and we went out for dinner. And at that establishment, I met this man. He was 5 years older than me, very handsome. And we started, to date. And I remember while we were dating, I asked God, is this the man for me? And God said no. And I'm like, but Lord, I've done all these things. I've been a good girl, and I go to church, and I love you, and I graduated with honors, and I just listed off all these things.
Cute.
And he's so cute, Lord.
Wow.
And he still said no. And so what I did was I disregarded what God said, and I kept dating him. And eventually we got married. And God didn't stop loving me. He let me make my choice. But I think that first decision, that first no, made a lot of other decisions easier. I would not go to church as much, or I'd go to the bar, I'd drink. And so we got married, and my son was born in 95. I got pregnant again right away. 5 months after my son was born, I was pregnant again.
Oh, wow.
And so in 1996, when my daughter was born, I have two children, 14 months apart, and I am feeling all of this stuff. My, hormones are all over the board. I'm feeling life stress. Our mortgage doubled. And I broke out at 26 years old. I broke out in shingles. And a nurse friend of mine, said, you need to do something. What are you going to do? And I ended up going to the doctor. And after a myriad of questions, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder in 1996. I picked up another suitcase that day. So I'm not only carrying, my backpack, I'm carrying my suitcase, and it's filled with all of this stuff, mental illness, and that I'm unqualified and unworthy, and I'm broken, and I'm damaged goods. And so what do? I throw on this I'm fine shirt. And that's what I presented to the world. Nobody knew that besides my family, nobody knew that I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I was a very high functioning in public, I was good. I was fine. There was nothing wrong. My kids, were very well dressed, and I presented this persona that I was perfect. And that's very exhausting. You don't go very long with that mentality. All of the things happening with the illness, all of the medication changes, the high spending that I was doing, we put ourselves financially in a situation where we had to declare bankruptcy. We moved multiple times, trying to run from the illness, trying to, a new house, that'll be great. It'll be new paint and new walls, but everything followed us. And I stood in the kitchen one day with my hands raised, and I just said, Lord, I can't do this anymore. I have made such a mess of my life. And it was in that act of surrender that he broke in, and I wasn't sure what he was going to do. But the one thing that I needed to do was kind of stop putting that persona on that I was perfect, that I had it all together. I took off that I'm fine shirt, and he just started to lead me down this path that I've been on ever since. And so we lost the house. We had to give everything back to the bank. We moved again into a land contract situation. And he just started working on my heart. My husband at the time did not have the same conversation with God as I did in the kitchen. And he looked at everything that had happened in our marriage and in our life as all negative. And so he continued to stay out. He continued to drink. And eventually, after many prayers and asking God, because I never wanted to get a divorce like my family. I never wanted to do that to my kids. Finally, I got my sign that it was okay to leave. And after that, it was just this one step in front of the other. God opened up another house for us to live in, and he opened up a job, and he opened up a church. And so that's, 13 years from being diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And then...
oh, wow, that's a long time.
Yeah. I was, being married for 12 years and, several houses later and 2 kids, and they're now teenagers. And we were officially divorced in 2007.
TCT's Vice President, Tina Kuntz, is making 2 of her books available to you, our beloved viewer. Life in the Right Seat helps show the secrets of assisting, advising, and encouraging your partner in life. Also, in For Women Only, Tina explains how God wants you to be a woman of wisdom, power, and love. To order your books, please call us at 866-338-5033.
So from 1996 to 2007. In 2007, I am divorced. I am working. I'm being a single mother. And I have this serious conversation with God in the bathroom. Okay, Lord, I don't ever want to date again. I don't ever want to get married again unless this time he's the one you want for me. I mean, I already made that choice once, that it wasn't he wasn't the man for me. So I said, this is the list of things that I want. So I went down, I'm, standing in the mirror, talking to myself, talking to God. I said, so the very first thing is I want him to be widowed.
Where did that even come from, right?
Exactly. Why would I even pray for that? Well, I'm thinking in my mind, if there's no good guys left at my age now, I'm thinking they're all either married or divorced. So I'm thinking he's got to be widowed. But also, if he's been widowed, he's never been divorced. I mean, she left because it was her time. So he would still be married. He'd still be a faithful husband. So that was my mind,
That makes sense.
my thinking.
Yeah.
So he's got to be widowed.
Is it better than divorce, right?
Right.
Anything's better than divorce.
Right, and there can't be any good guys left or single.
Because the wife is what makes him the good guy. Right. Okay.
Right. No kids. I didn't want to share my kids with anyone except, I wanted him to be a dad. And then he has to have a relationship with the Lord. So those were the first three things. And then I prayed for, love him to be a good kisser, maybe like motorcycles. I really wanted him to have an Australian accent. That didn't work.
Okay, the list is getting a little harder here.
That's right. He's like, wait,
God could do anything, but come on.
I draw the line on the Australian accent.
Okay.
So, I prayed. I said, that's amen, and that's that. So I was at the time, I was a youth leader at my church, so where I could go to church on Wednesday nights with my kids. And the youth pastor came up to me, and he said, hey, I've been thinking about you. I think I have someone in mind for you. I'm like, okay, let me hear it. And what he said just floors me to this day. He said, well, he's widowed, no kids, works at Central Westland Church. And inside I'm like, really? This is the guy I'm going to marry? And outside I'm like, yeah, you can give him my number. That's fine. That's okay. And so I waited for him to call. And because I knew this was the guy I prayed for. And so we went out on a couple dates, and he has a motorcycle.
Wow.
And I know God is detailed. And so, but I'm still carrying around all my luggage. I'm still diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And so a couple dates in, I'm thinking, I've got to share this with this man. I've got to tell him about my past and that I take medication. And so that's what we did. We went out for coffee, and I told him all these things I don't like about myself. And it was a lot to take in over coffee. And he said, I'm going to have to pray about this. I'm going to have to think about this. I'd like to talk with some other people, get some counsel. And I'm like, okay.
So you just laid it all. You weren't going to hide it from him. You weren't going to unpack.
I laid it all
later.
out there.
You unpacked.
I didn't think it was fair. That if he were to fall in love with me and then it's too late, then he's got to, deal with me.
So you're basically trying to sabotage yourself. I mean, you could look at it that way.
Yeah, that's
Like,
true.
I'm going to tell you all this stuff so you don't. I mean, that's big.
or to ensure that if this is going to be what it should be, he needs to.
No, it's amazing
where-
that you're doing that, because I think it's so unusual that somebody would be that honest up front.
Yeah. I really felt led. I mean, I'm traveling a new journey. The Lord is going before me and taking me on this new journey. Even though I'm still mentally ill, even though I'm still, I have so much damage that was done over my life, I'm still trying to be obedient. So I did feel I need to tell him, but it was still hard.
But can I just say, this is an amazing thing that everybody should do, because what ends up happening, that's what we say, like you bring your suitcases into the marriage, and then the baggage then you open up all the baggage.
Right.
And this person has no idea. That's what most people do.
You're right.
So I'm just in awe that you did like what should be done.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So go.
So
go
it
ahead.
was hard. It was hard telling him all those things, but I felt like I was giving him that choice. And so he took some time. He took, I would say, about a week, and was asking people, and we finally met up again. And he said, I have some concerns, but ultimately, you seem like you're doing good. You're going to stay on your medication, right? Yep, I'm going to stay on my medication. Yes, I am. And he said, so we got some time, so let's just date. Let's just see how it goes. So that's what we did. We dated. We went for more motorcycle rides. We did things with the kids. And that was about a year. So in 2008, he proposed to me in front of all of the youth group kids, in front of my kids, got down on one knee and proposed, and I said yes, and we were married a year later. So we're done with the wedding, we've cleaned everything up, we're at the hotel, we fall exhausted on the bed, and I tell him to take off his ring, and inside of his ring it said, I really, really like you, which is something I said to him on a second date. And so it was just just God creating this amazing, bond for us.
So
And
he didn't know that was in the ring.
he didn't know that was in the ring.
Oh.
So he just took it off, and I had said that on our second date, which really kind of scared him. I'm like, I really, really like you. I think it's because I knew this was the guy for me, and he's like, okay, thank you. So anyway, so we're married.
Much.
So we're married. We're married, and we come back from the honeymoon, and I'd like to think of, it's called a marriage box. You think when you get married, you're going to open this box, and it's going to have all these wonderful things inside. And I was really counting on that because this was my second chance at happiness. I mean, I now have a man that the Lord has said, this is the man that I prayed for. And I have a new life. I'm on medication, but I have a good life. And so I come home from the honeymoon, and I open the box, and there wasn't anything in there. All that I saw was moving towns, moving into his home that he had with his first wife, moving my kids out of our home. And when I prayed for that man who was a widower, I didn't ever think about that they would still be married if she hadn't passed away. So he still loved her, and he was still grieving for her. And so that added to the list of things that I now picked up in my third suitcase. Rejection, his struggles, my struggles. And so we hit a wall after we got married. And those first couple of years were really challenging years. Trying to balance his past, my past, teenage kids living under one roof. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I would see, and this is why when you got to get rid of both the houses and start with your own.
Yes.
That's what
That would have been nice.
because that's why, because there's so many
memories.
There's memories, and it's his house his way, or it would be your house your way.
Yes.
And
So that took a lot of adjusting.
I totally get that. Yeah.
So I'm carrying still. I mean, he knows about everything, but I'm still carrying around all this luggage, all this baggage from my past.
You
from
still
my
have the
marriage.
backpack and the suitcase, and now you got the okay.
And now I got a new suitcase, and now I'm married another time, and it's hard. It really hard. And I believe that second marriages are hard and challenging, and the divorce rate for second marriages is higher than it is for first time around people.
TCT's Vice President, Tina Kuntz, is making 2 of her books available to you, our beloved viewer. Life in the Right Seat helps show the secrets of assisting, advising, and encouraging your partner in life. Also, in For Women Only, Tina explains how God wants you to be a woman of wisdom, power, and love. To order your books, please call us at 866-338-5033.
So
Because until you heal from whatever was broken in the first one, you bring into the second.
you bring it in the second.
And no matter who that person is, you're still you.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, go ahead.
So I am just compiling all of these things on myself, this bitterness and resentment against him, against the situation. It's like, Lord, really? I prayed for this man, and this is what's happening.
How did you realize he was still in love with his wife?
We'd get to the anniversary of when she had passed, and there would be this elephant in the room. He would go through it all again. She passed away from cancer, and I could just sense that he was missing her, that he, still loved her, and not that he didn't not love me, but it really hurt my identity. I was still dealing with rejection from my parents' marriage. I was still dealing with the damage of not being able to make my first marriage work, that I wasn't, good enough. And now I really felt like I was never going to be good enough to her. I mean, I was mentally ill. I was divorced. All of the lies that the enemy told me. So we'd get to the anniversary of her death, and I would just be like so angry and full of resentment, because I'm like, I know he's thinking about her. I know he misses her. I'm never going to be good enough. And all of that just built up in me until I was a walking time bomb. And my friend could see that in my life, and she could see that I was really struggling. And so she said, you know what, I've been praying for you. I really think that you need to do this day of healing. this day of prayer. And I'm like, I don't even know what that means, but I'm good, because I need to do something, because I just am so unhappy and so sad and so filled with all of this bitterness and resentment. So I go to the day of prayer. I take all of my luggage and I take everything that I've been carrying for all those years. And it's an 8-hour day. We're going through this book and we're reading all of these prayers, and I'm confessing everything. I'm confessing all of my sin. I'm presenting to the Lord all of my pain, all of my frustration, all of my bitterness, all of my resentment, and I'm forgiving my parents for their divorce. I'm forgiving my ex-husband and why we couldn't make that marriage work. I'm forgiving my husband's wife that passed away, that I've never met, that I've never met her, and there's no competition. She's a woman. She's passed away. She's in heaven now. I'm letting all of that go. We get to the very end of the day, and both women lay hands on me, and now we're praying for my healing. Now we're praying for my restoration. Now we're praying for the Lord to do in me supernaturally to deal with my bipolar disorder. And they're praying and laying hands on me, and when it's all done, I feel completely different. I walk out of that house and I'm just carrying my purse.
Wow.
I've laid all
Thank
of
you,
the
Jesus.
suitcases and all of the baggage down at the foot of the cross.
And did you forgive yourself? Was
I
that
did.
part of it?
Yes.
'Cause
I did.
that's the hardest, I think.
Yes.
And but that was part of it too.
Yes, that was
Okay.
everything.
Yes.
Even, all of the things that I had felt over myself. So I'm driving home and I'm like, wow, this is a really big deal. I mean, they tell you if you have bipolar disorder or any kind of mental illness that you never go off your medication. So I'm like, in my mind, if I'm healed, then I got to stop taking my medication. I don't need it anymore. So I said, this is a really big deal, Lord. So I'm going to need a sign from heaven. I'm going to need to see something in the sky that tells me that I'm completely healed and that I can go off my medication. Well, I don't see anything, and so I listen. The Holy Spirit tells me, I want you to wean off your pills. And so I go home. I don't tell my husband that what has happened, and I just wean off my pills. And at the end of the 7th day, I'm driving into work. I have no medication in me, and all of a sudden the enemy is just working. You're not healed. You're not saved. Nothing's happened. And I'm blaring my Christian music, listening, and God is saying, I have a plan and a purpose for your life. And I go down the hill, and it's just morning, and I look up, and there's my shooting star. There's my prayer that I asked to see something in the heavens supernaturally. And God said, yes, you are healed from bipolar
So what was the
disorder.
sign?
A shooting star.
A shooting star.
Yes.
Wow.
That was my supernatural in the heavens sign that he gave me.
Wow.
And that was in 2013. So I've been healed, no medication, since
And
2013.
so at what point did you tell your husband that you?
About a month later.
A month later?
I gave it a month because I was like, okay, how do you think I'm doing? How do I? He said, you're doing really good. Like, well, I went off all my medication. What?
Could he tell a difference in you in that
could.
month?
He could.
And so did he start treating you differently, or how did that?
God just did all of these amazing things in our marriage. He took us to Guatemala in 2015 to learn about mission, and we built houses. In 2016, God took me to Israel, and there in Israel told me, it's time to tell your story and tell it to the world. So I came home and, talked with my husband. And since 2017 until now, God has just been laying out this plan. I want you to write books. I want you to speak to women. I want you to have national conferences. I want you to tell everyone what God has done in your life.
Thank you,
And
Jesus.
so that door that the enemy opened back when my parents told me that they were getting a divorce, everybody has something in their life that's opened that door for the enemy to speak to us lies. And basically what my mission is telling women that we need to put on that full armor of God because we're in a battle.
Yes.
The enemy wants to steal, kill, and destroy. And that's why my latest book, Finding Joy Again, is that book will tell you how to put on that full armor of God and how to find your joy while we live in this broken world. And God has just really put that on, especially for 2020.
So, gosh, I've been looking at the time and I'm like, how is she going to tell all this? And you got it all in and we have a little bit of time. But I want to know, okay, what happens now on the anniversary of when she passed it,
So
Otherwise-
he had to work on me, right? I mean, I have to give my husband permission to still love a woman that he was married to that God brought into his life. And I don't have those issues that I'm dealing with anymore with my own identity. I know who I am. And I also can give that to him to have that time. But time does heal things. And because our relationship has grown so much, I know he loves me. And if he might have a day where he misses his wife, that's okay, because I know that that he loves me and he loves our family and he loves everything that God has done for both of us.
That's amazing.
Yes, it
Isn't that
is.
wonderful?
Wow.
Okay.
I love it.
So this is my favorite book, because just since I've sat here and got to see these in a few minutes, because
Yes.
it's got pictures in them, that's my favorite. And it's
Looking for God.
Looking for God, but
Great
it's
little
for your niece.
Yes.
Okay, and it's a poem, right?
It is. It's written in rhyme, so it's very fun to read to your kids, and
It is
it's got a
so
great
good.
message.
Yeah.
I sat here and ordered it. The program came out.
Thank you.
Then Finding Joy Again.
Yep.
In Over My Head. Yeah.
That's my story.
This is your story.
That's
In
my
Over
story. Yep.
Okay.
And then Living on the Waves is a devotional. It's a 365-day devotional that will help you on your journey.
Okay, so it's amybowman.com.
Yep.
You got to check out when she's going to have her conferences and get her books. And like Kathy did. Kathy's setting a good example. Okay, thanks for watching. Have a great day.